All right, so let's take a look today at the Ethereum ETFs and what this may mean for the rest of the markets, including maybe a Bitcoin ETF. We'll break all that down for you guys today. I think you're going to like it. My name is Paul Bear, and welcome back into Tech Path. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor, and that is iTrust Capital. If you're looking at long-term holdings, one of the things you should be doing is taking a look at a crypto IRA. One of the things you can do is you can jump into iTrust. Very simple and easy. All you have to do, click the link down below. No fees. All you do is pay fees when you're doing your trading, which you self-manage. You can also do some gold and silver in there, so it gives you a lot of flexibility. Make sure and check out our link. It does help the channel out, and you get a $100 funding reward if you decide to go that direction. All right, so let's get into a couple of things here today, and I want to talk about the Ethereum ETF. This is a futures ETF, potentially incoming, and there's a lot of them that have been put out there. I'll jump to this first story. This is basically kind of poising up what the SEC is potentially looking at. SEC poised to approve multiple ETH filings. And a couple of things here that we highlighted. Reportedly, right now, greenlighting a series of applications under the futures exchange traded funds, which will be all done concurrently. This is a big deal. Unlike 2021, when similar apps were met with directives to withdraw, the SEC refrained from instructing firms to retract their current submissions. That's a good sign for the ETF futures potential. This divergence suggests that the regulatory body is now unlikely to impede the imminent launch of these funds, simply meaning they're going to approve them. We're going to see it happen. Now remember, we already have a Bitcoin futures also filed and done in the market right now, so you can go out there and actually trade that. But there's at least 16 applications right now for both ETH or Bitcoin futures. And I think this is going to be just a matter of time before we start to see this really move. Now, with that being the case, there are some other aspects to this that could fall into place. When you think about this, Ethereum is the most traded crypto right now. This is a new study that was just put out. Let me kind of zoom in on a couple points I want to hit on here for you. Here we go. ETH and USDC wallets right now consistently rank high on the list of how many tokens are held by active traders. This is just as of July 2023. Active wallets have about 2/5 of the supply of USDC and almost half all the ETH. When you look at that, they transacted at least once a month, and they're consistently exceeding Bitcoin activity during the 2021 bull run. So if you look back as to the cycle and also the impact or the incoming impact on Ethereum as a whole, again, this just plays to the benefits of where ETH is going. A lot of other things play into this. I want to go over to this quick breakdown right here. This is how NASDAQ makes money, because this is important for ETFs. So let me show you something right here. This is pretty interesting. NASDAQ Market Services Agreement charges for transactions from the cash equity or the derivatives trading, right? So they're making almost $1 billion right now, even though it's down a little bit. But the point, well, not a little bit, a lot, but it's down. The point is they're making $1 billion on these fees. When you look at the most traded asset being Ethereum, and you look at these types of market makers wanting to go with the most active projects, in this particular case, Ethereum would be the natural, potential. So this could be a factor, especially if you look at both the futures contracts, but also the potential of immediately, because once those are approved, the futures ETF for Ethereum, what would be next in your mind? What would be next? Just type it right down below. And while you're doing that, smash the like button. What would be next is that ETH would potentially have an ETF, a full-blown ETF, a spot ETF put into play. If that does happen, we're going to see absolute market dynamics, I think, that we haven't seen around the Ethereum ecosystem, maybe since the pre-Meta, which is when we really started to see a lot of activity in the space. A couple other aspects to this I want to hit on is ETH launched their phone, which we had the ETHOS phone orders. These all, of course, and remember, you've got two major Web3 phones now in the marketplace, obviously the ETH phone and the Saga phone, which is the Solana phone. But the point is this one right here, pre-orders already started. This thing sold out. Here was already gone. So remember, this had kind of this combination of the physical digital component, physical side, getting a digital NFT all tied to it. But again, I don't know what the total numbers are right now for this to sell out so quickly, though. Very impressive, I think, overall, for sure, just in general. And again, it just shows you the interest that's happening. Now, granted, part of this is just because of the ecosystem, the size of it. Ethereum's still the largest number of developers, the largest number of projects riding on that. And then also, when you look at what's happening right now with Coinbase, this has the most opportunity for seeing so many new projects kind of coming into the place. I want to play a little bit of a, well, actually, I'm not going to play the video for you, but you can go back and look at our interview with the ETHOS team, and we kind of looked at a couple of things within it. One thing I've kind of, froze in here is the idea of not only nodes, because they're talking about a kind of a light node version to run on mobile, but the point is that they have a lot of features that are built into this phone that would only enable it to do some even more impressive things around the ETH ecosystem. So if you want to check out that video, it's the Ethereum Mobile OS interview. Just go in and check it, because it was right around the Shanghai upgrade that we did this video, so a little bit a while ago. So just go check it out. You guys can kind of get a full view of what was happening there. I want to go over to On-Chain Summer a little bit here in terms of how big and how much this has impacted not only ETH as a whole, but you look at the total number of minted NFTs right now, 61 million, total campaign revenue. I mean, we're talking about a significant amount of money that's flowing through what is happening over on Base. So again, just very bullish for ETH as a whole. And even more so if we start to see some other aspects playing into this around an ETF futures filing and potentially an Ethereum ETF incoming. So lots kind of pointing in the right direction. Here's another Dune Analytics component here, just to give you guys a little bit more. Transactions, obviously you can kind of see Base really exploding right there. And I look at this and I just think, my gosh, this is just the beginning. Base is really just getting started. There are going to be so many projects and potentials that are going to be coming into this. Could this be the next major implication of market moves that we could see in the space? Because the last one really, if you look at the growth of what we saw in Web3, all that really was launched because of Meta's announcement back in the fall of 21. And it's right there when we were hitting all-time highs. Bitcoin hit 69, where Ethereum was going. And I think that's the question mark, is what would be leading up to this next happening for Bitcoin when you think about the Ethereum camp. So definitely a lot happening in the right direction. Base's commitment to decentralization. With Superchain, this is kind of a misleading headline because we all know that's not necessarily the case. But the point is that they're doing some things that I think will be helpful overall to the ecosystem. So they look at this. We believe the Ethereum will scale through many interoperable chains, the super chain. The other thing, rollups and L2s all working together and to jointly scale Ethereum. I think that's a good one. I've got a clip for you I want to play here. There was one other point here. I think it was down in there. No, I want to go to the clip real quick. So let's go to a clip. This is an interesting conversation between Brian Armstrong and Anatoly. So listen in.
I guess, how would you compare Solana and its performance benefits to Layer 2 across writ large?
What's cool about Solana is that it can handle the load in parallel. It's not like a single threaded runtime. So when you have a bunch of transactions for independent actions, like an NFT mint, a DEX trade, and a payment, it can actually process them all in parallel. If you had a Layer 2, you can have a Layer 2 on Ethereum, let's say, that could do things in parallel. That layer, you don't need any more Layer 2s. You only need one Layer 2 that can do everything in parallel. And then you have one Layer 2 and one Layer 1. Why don't you just fuse them together and optimize and make the system more robust? So there's lots of reasons why Layer 2s may succeed. You don't strictly need Layer 2s. There's actually teams building Layer 2s on Solana. Like when you look at Optimism and Arbitrum, they're not yet at a stage where they have fraud proofs and full decentralization. They're still kind of these early stage MVPs that are single node systems that have very strict control about what happens there. And to do that, they have to focus on that security part first and then figure out how to scale. And it's not clear that the complexity of both is achievable.
I think it's good that we have different teams working on different blockchains.
All right, so you kind of see. I won't say that Brian conceded to what Anatoly was talking about. The point, though, is very clear, and that is that I think Anatoly was pushing for Solana as being an opportunity here for Base. And if you think about the natural progression of really any great project, and you think about a blockchain like Base, could it get to multi-chain capabilities? Maybe it could. The other thing that he hit on was this whole idea of, you've got to be able to have uptime, you've got to be able to have security in that element. And remember, Base is just getting started. Obviously, Optimism, Arbitrum, both kind of playing into this. So if you look at this tweet right here, Arbitrum sequencer went offline. This is how bad it was. 2 hours of outage followed by a 1 hour outage. You wouldn't be surprised as the first time. Let's see how many times this has happened before, and then they kind of show some of the scenarios that have played into this. And this all happened just in a period of time in which we were seeing a lot of activity over on Base. So if you look at that and you think about that, then you have to kind of consider Tolley's presentation there is in the sense that maybe there's an opportunity here. So anyway, this is all good for Base because it means that we've got really advanced teams building on something that could be getting an accelerant that maybe we don't even know how large this could go in terms of the number of projects could come to it in the future. Here was just an example right here, breaking. This was all ecosystems are slowly losing the outage argument against Solana. Again, going back to the aspect here. And of course, remember, there's the CPS comparison, the transaction cost comparison, and the decentralization comparison. Again, a lot of argument here for Solana. I don't want to sound like a Solana, blob, in the sense of just always talking about it. But I look at technology and I look at the advancement, and even I have had a chance to really educate myself and our team on understanding what's really happening here. And it's like any technology. Things change, projects shift, and breakthroughs come through. And when those things start to happen, you start to see the aha moments. And these are some of the aha moments that we are starting to see right now around what's happening with Ethereum and obviously Solana itself. But you can kind of take a look here. Active addresses right here on transactions by chain. Again, lots happening right here around Arbitrum and Optimism. But when Arbitrum started to slide, Optimism kind of took over. And obviously OP is where we are right now. So think about that. Here's another just quick chart just to show you the amount of impact this is having on Ethereum overall. This is just the weekly Ethereum gas spent right now in the L2s. Then you can kind of look here around some of the projects that it's starting to get into. All of this is up and to the right. And that is the whole point when you look at where this may be going. And I think the key here is going to be what kind of winners are playing into the market. One of the winners that we're watching right now is Chainlink. And Chainlink obviously is going to benefit from this because of just what Chainlink's capable of doing. If you haven't watched our Chainlink videos, go back and watch those because it'll give you a little bit more insight. But I would recommend take a pause a moment and go out and do some research on Chainlink and what they're capable of, and also the kinds of things they're going to be involved in. But again, this goes back into this idea of these live price feeds, which if you look at Chainlinks, I won't go into a video on that because it's a much longer project. We probably should do a video on Chainlink. But the point being is if you go in and look at just some of the impacts, look at Polygon revenue right now. All this right here lying within Chainlink. So Chainlink's going to win this really heavily. And here's Avalanche right there growing. You further on down, you've got Chainlink on BNB, Chainlink price feeds on Phantom also growing. And then right here, Chainlink on Optimism. Right here, that is Base. That's Base right there. And that's just talking about the month of July. So what we will see as we get more and more data is the real effect, because that's a 300,000 versus if you take a look at just, let's go up here to, Phantom at the highest, probably around 15K. You go up here and look at Avalanche, highest around 25K. So I think this is the thing that we are going to be looking at in the coming months is what are going to be some of the impending impacts on Ethereum and also what could happen with Coinbase. So all this really kind of boiling into two market directives. One, the Ethereum ecosystem, and two, Coinbase. All this playing together, obviously, with what Base is doing. If you look at Coinbase, just don't forget, crypto futures now coming soon. So you'll be able to get into crypto futures. If a ETF futures comes into play, who wins that? Coinbase wins that. So what does that do? It's possibly going to impact their stock price. I just look at all these little things that start to add up. When trading starts and we start to see market pressures release, the macros start to pull off, we get out of this recession, we get into a position of gains again. Who are going to be the companies and projects that are poised for explosion? That's what we're watching for very closely. Just to look at Coinbase's current stock price, just to give an example, this thing has slid from $110. This isn't here in recent, this is July. And if you look at just the July gain, or loss, I should say, right there, almost 32% down. So is this a good time? I think Coinbase will continue to maybe get back into that $50 zone. That's the one that Gareth has talked with us before when we had Gareth on the show. And I kind of am in agreement, but I'm watching Coinbase very closely because this one I think is so much to gain from what's happening right now within Base, within the ETH ecosystem, and then if ETF futures comes into play, which I believe it will, and an ETF following that immediately or very close, question will be, which one comes first? A full spot ETF on Bitcoin, or could Ethereum swing in and swoop for some, a little bit of glory? I don't know. Let me know down in the comments. Love to get your feedback. And also love to get you guys' feedback on what you like us to do. Do you like these kind of breakdown videos? Do you like the interview videos? Do you like some of the project overview videos? Let us know what you like to see here on PBN. Of course, if you're not part of the Diamond Circle, make sure and jump in. It's really easy and it's free. All you have to do is click the link down below. You're going to get some additional alpha. We do a podcast over there. I do some additional content. And it's a great place for you to kind of become part of the PBN family. So that's a first thing to get into. If you guys want to catch me, it's out there on Twitter, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.